card. The referee. They're gonna stop this. They're gonna stop it.
Welcome to the relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Eddie Hearn stated the plan for Anthony Joshua is still August 12th, but we have to nail down that deal this week.
It was supposed to be a Dillian White rematch we were looking at for August, but, things fell through.
The heavyweight division has lost some steam. It has become somewhat stagnant this year. Everything is tentative. Nothing is finalized.
Well, almost nothing. Usyk is fighting Daniel Dubois.
That much we already know. That fight is done. The plan is still August 12th, but we absolutely have to nail that down this week, acknowledged Hearn. We're talking to a number of opponents now. We'll be doing everything we can to make sure he fights August 12th.
I saw an interview earlier today where Eddie Hearn mentioned Otto Wallin as a potential opponent option, a name that Dimitri Salita presented to him.
Those of you that have been following the channel know that that's my first pick. That's my first choice for Anthony Joshua's next fight. Anthony Joshua, who initially alerted his millions of fans on social media Easter Sunday when he learned that he would likely not fight until December. It was learned soon thereafter that a heavyweight supercard was eyed by Saudi Arabia-based outfit Skills Challenge Promotions for December in the Middle East. Joshua versus Wilder would join the hoped-for Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk Undisputed Heavyweight Championship as part of a blockbuster event.
Ambitious, yes, but hardly realistic.
Most seem to have given up hope that Tyson Fury will box Alexander Usyk in December. It seems like Tyson Fury, he's not trying to keep busy until December. He's looking for an alternative for December.
A substitute.
Comes to Anthony Joshua still. Matchroom Boxing and DAZN hope to get at least one more fight in the interim for Joshua to further develop under new trainer Derek James. A rematch with Dillian White was the primary focus, but Matchroom and White remain too far apart financially to move forward with those plans. Hearn would not disclose the list of 4 or 5 relevant top 15 fighters eyed for the August 12th date. However, this weekend will mark just 7 weeks left to not only find an opponent, but also properly market such an event. The Saudi conversations are ongoing, revealed Hearn, of the greater guarantee of Joshua's targeted dates for the rest of 2023. We're closing in. I'm very confident that fight happens with Deontay Wilder.
The last we heard when it comes to Deontay is they're entertaining the possibility of boxing Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz, who they were ordered to fight by way of the WBC to crown a new mandatory challenger.
But even if Deontay ends up boxing Andy Ruiz sometime over the summer months, the focus is the Joshua fight at the end of the year, not challenging the WBC champion, not challenging Tyson Fury.
Especially if Wilder wins.
Comes to Anthony Joshua, Eddie Hearn says, our main priority now is to nail August 12th if he's going to fight.
There is a chance that he doesn't.
With the clock ticking and just 7 weeks left until August 12th, you have to figure that if Anthony's gonna fight based on the allotted time frame, they're not gonna put him in there with some killer. They're not gonna jeopardize that fight in Saudi for what is a keep busy fight in August.
Is Otto Wallin too risky for Anthony Joshua? Is that too risky a fight for him in August en route to a December showdown?
I think he can beat him. I think he can knock out Otto Wallin. I have that much faith in him. But ahead of what is a mega match, a showdown, a long-awaited, long-anticipated fight with Deontay Wilder, do you really want to gamble? Do you really want to roll the dice?
That's the question.
The WBC themselves announced earlier today that there's no new mandatory for Tyson Fury. Wilder versus Ruiz Eliminator is still in play, though, in the absence of an official announcement.
For that fight.
How in play is that fight really?
Tyson Fury himself, the WBC champion, posted a video via his social media saying there's big news coming.
We're coming, and we're bringing pain with us. We're bringing a whole lot of pain. Keep tuned. Big announcement coming, and I've said it a few times now, but I'm very excited. It's here, it's landed.
No idea who it is Tyson Fury is going to be fighting next. Alexander Usyk, Joshua, and even Andy Ruiz didn't materialize. Fury wishes to have the best fight possible, Suleiman told Sky Sports. Last year, the WBC ordered former world champions Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz to collide in a final eliminator, where the winner would land a crack at Fury. However, the two X-belt holders have not come close to reaching an agreement. Suleiman had a recent meeting with Fury's co-promoter, Frank Warren, Warren to discuss his fighter's future in 2023.
Interestingly enough, the WBC has held off on crowning a mandatory challenger for Tyson Fury, even though Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz are not the only fighters in their ranks.
If they really wanted to, they could go down their ranks and find two other available contenders, two other guys to fight for that mandatory status. They elected not to do that.
The sanctioning body had made it known that his organization is still hoping that a deal between Wilder and Ruiz gets finalized for the Eliminator.
Problem with that is that even if Deontay Wilder were to box Andy Ruiz sometime over the summer months and say that he stops him, say that he beats him, he's not looking for a fourth fight with Tyson Fury, I don't think. I think the focus would still be boxing Anthony Joshua in December in Saudi.
What if Andy wins?
Well, if Andy Ruiz were to win in that situation, that would be an unexpected turn of events, though I think similar logic would be applied. There's more money waiting for an Andy Ruiz or a Deontay Wilder in Saudi than there is in boxing Tyson Fury.
Boxing him in the UK.
As his mandatory challenger, you have to remember that they said they explored an Andy Ruiz fight for Tyson Fury, but they were at odds over the money. The money wasn't to Andy Ruiz's liking.
So you know.
Hypothetically speaking, if Deontay and Andy were to fight sometime over the summer months, and by some chance Andy won, I think he would look to box Anthony Joshua in Saudi before revisiting talks for a Fury fight. And for Fury, the clock is ticking. He says he's got some news coming.
But that's not the first time he's said that.
My meeting with Frank Warren was an informal one, but one in which we discussed the heavyweight division and how unfortunate it has been that Tyson Fury has been left aside without the fights that he has tried to make, Suleiman said. The WBC has the Wilder versus Ruiz final eliminator still in the administrative process. Such processes are not finished. The WBC is not considering any alternative.
Fury seems to have some big news coming, but in light of all of this, I just keep asking myself, what about Frankie Sanchez? What about F.A. Ajagba, Martin Bacoli, Michael Hunter?
WBC are treating the situation as if Tyson Fury only has 3 or 4 names to choose from. They've got a top 10, a top 15.
Yeah, but he can't just fight anybody from the top 15 and make a big fight.
Thus, the WBC seem to be enabling Tyson Fury to hold the belt hostage until he can find a dance partner to his liking, which kind of defeats the purpose of paying these people sanctioning fees.
What are you paying them for? The ranks are basically frozen.
They don't seem to have any intention of putting Tyson Fury on the spot. Ideally, if you can't get Andy and Deontay in the ring, you move down the ranks, you find 2 other guys, and you let them have that final eliminator.
They might want to.
Tyson Fury himself can go through those ranks, comb through them himself, and just pick somebody and go.
His problem is he can't just pick anybody and make a big fight.
No, not just anybody. You have to remember, this isn't a keep busy fight we're talking about. What he's really doing is looking for an alternative to the Usyk fight he has no intention of having later on this year. And he needs it to be a big one because he hasn't fought yet.
So we'll find out what his big news is.
Men's super middleweight news. My continued thoughts on Canelo Alvarez's 3-fight deal with the PBC. Mike Kopinger stated, PBC now has top 3 box office attractions in the United States in Canelo, Gervonta Davis, and Errol Spence Jr. Add in David Benavidez, the Charlos, Deontay Wilder, Caleb Plant, Stephen Fulton, and it's a stacked stable.
Not exactly.
Terrence Crawford goes in there late July and knocks out Errol Spence Jr. I don't think he's going to be in any hurry to return to action. That's if Terrence Crawford knocks him out. And because Canelo Alvarez is now on that side of the street, and because, at least in the past, the PBC has wanted to make a fight between Canelo and Errol, Terrence really needs to make sure he stops this guy. He needs to make sure it don't go to the scorecards.
In any event, Spence might get stopped in his next fight.
We don't know what the hell is going on with Deontay Wilder. There's a rumor going around that he might sign 2 Skills Challenge, though at minimum what we know is that he's planning on fighting Anthony Joshua in December in what is not a PBC show.
Mike Kopinger also mentioned Caleb Plant, but Canelo already knocked out Caleb Plant. Not that Caleb Plant is a big draw anyway, because he isn't.
Mentioned Stephen Fulton, who's going to be fighting Naoya Inoue the same week that Spence versus Crawford is supposed to go down. And if he loses in the land of the rising sun, if he loses in Japan, that's one less champion for the PBC.
Not that his next fight is a PBC show anyway, because it isn't. Inouye's promoter's at the helm of promotion, and here in America, it's not going to be on Showtime. It's going to be on ESPN.
So when Mike Kopinger calls this a stacked stable. I think it's a little bit top-heavy. I think it's a little bit of an overstatement. The story is that Canelo may end up fighting Charlo as the very first fight of his newly minted 3-fight deal with the PBC.
Some are complaining that he's using Jermall as a tune-up fight, that he's only fighting him because it's an opportune time to fight Charlo.
Maybe it is, but that's Charlo's fault more than anybody. You say that this guy had issues outside of the ring, but who doesn't?
Everybody's got their own baggage, their own problems.
You're still expected to do a job, and he didn't do his. That the WBC has allowed him to hang on to that WBC title for all this time is a travesty.
Yeah.
It's criminal, and in any event, you stay ready so that you don't have to get ready.
You ever heard that before?
You got a guy whose excuse was that he was going through mental health problems,
Right.
mental health issues outside of the ring, and all of those issues magically disappeared as soon as a Canelo Alvarez fight came around.
Oh, you ain't got no mental health issues anymore?
That's convenient. PBC fighters are a little more than cannon fodder for Canelo Alvarez. That's what we saw in the Caleb Plant fight, where Canelo Alvarez did more damage to Caleb by throwing less punches than David. He was actually able to stop Caleb, whereas Caleb, he went the distance with David.
Because David's a hype job.
PBC fighters really are just cannon fodder for elite fighters, real fighters like Canelo, who took a lot of heat from the Haymanites, a lot of heat from the PBC faction of fans.
Yeah.
He killed all their narratives,
They've been attacking this guy night and day.
saying that he's running from the PBC and their stable of heavy bags.
This 3-fight deal is the opposite of what they're saying. He's not running away from PBC fighters, he's running to them.
First seems to be Charlo, who's been out of action approximately 24 months, more than 24 months actually, more than 2 years. We saw what a 16-month layoff did to Josh Taylor in his last fight with Teofimo Lopez. He started out all right, but he faded down the stretch, faded in the middle.
That was what a 16-month layoff did to him. What do you think over 24 months away from the ring does?
Josh was out of action for a little over a year. Charlo has been out of action a little over 2 years.
2 times as much in activity.
I think Canelo Alvarez is going to go in there, and I think he's going to stop Charlo. Jermall, who, even when he was a more active fighter, I didn't forget how he looked in the Juan Macias Montiel fight, the punches that he took. If that guy can land punches on you, what do you think Canelo can do?
Will do.
He's a sacrificial lamb, if he's anything, and this affords the PBC an opportunity to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You got these guys like Jermall that ain't doing nothing but taking up space.
You've got to shed the excess. You've got to trim the fat. You put this guy in there with Canelo Alvarez, you get him a nice payday, and you send him on his way.
Because he's practically retired anyway.
Likely in September of this year.
That goes down because by himself, Charlo just ain't worth a lot of money. In spite of years of being on the PBC side of things, they never turned him into a draw of any kind, a draw unto himself. So the most that you can use him for is cannon fodder, a face to punch, a body to put in the ring.
With Canelo.
So Oscar De La Hoya, by way of his social media, some light ribbing Eddie Hearn.
You know, because Canelo crossed over to the PBC now and he's going to be there for the foreseeable future. He's not with Matchroom and Eddie anymore.
But he's not with Oscar either, so I don't know what Oscar's gloating about.
People at Matchroom and DAZN still have very big plans that don't even involve Canelo Alvarez, and they still have a lot of fighters, a lot of shows that they can do. But Golden Boy,
You've got to sue Ryan Garcia just to be able to keep staging his fights. You've got to take him to court just to make sure he doesn't leave you, because he wants to.
like Canelo left you.
The indignant pettiness of Oscar De La Coca is at an all-time high, and it doesn't really better his situation because Golden Boy Promotions really is worse for wear, and their future.
They're on shaky ground.
I'm sure that Eddie Hearn would still love to be in the Canelo Alvarez business, though the truth is, outside of a Dimitri Bivol fight, he doesn't have much to offer him right now anyway, so it's better for Canelo that he go over there, take care of business, and take out the trash.
You've been following this channel, you'll already know. That's what I wanted him to do anyway.
Now, this 3-fight deal that Canelo has struck with the PBC means that we aren't going to be seeing a Canelo versus Bivol rematch no time soon, if we ever see one at all. And I'm not too broken up about that, but that does mean that Dmitry Bivol is left out in the cold without a dance partner.
And that he may fight only once, just once, this entire year.
Last year was a big year for Dmitry. He upset the apple cart for the face of boxing, went on to beat an unbeaten fighter, a former champion, in Zurdo Ramirez in lopsided fashion. He outclassed that guy. When last year ended, I thought 2023 would have more in store for Dmitry Bivol than what we're seeing. But so far,
It's been quiet.
former WBC light heavyweight champion Alexander Gvozdyk, who has since had two comeback fights, one on a Marv Nation show and the other on the undercard of Canelo versus Ryder, took to his social media to call out Dmitry Bivol, who at this time doesn't have a dance partner, saying,
What an unfortunate defeat. Would you like a rematch?
citing an amateur tournament, an amateur contest where Alexander Gvozdyk must have beaten Dmitry Bivol. I just don't know. I do know that these guys, they do have some history. I wouldn't mind seeing them swap punches in the pro ranks. Alexander Gvozdyk really looked himself. He really looked the part in the Ricard Bolotnik's fight on the undercard of Canelo versus Ryder. But if you're Dmitry,
This is a good fight for the fans, but it's not a big fight. Not for Dmitry.
upon the Canelo-Alvarez rematch's collapse, when it was announced that those two guys weren't going to be fighting in Canelo's very next fight, Dmitry Bivol made it known that he wants Artur Beterbiev, rather the winner of Beterbiev versus Smith, which is set to go down this summer.
He wants the winner of that fight. He wants to shoot for undisputed at his own weight.
I'd like to see him get the chance, but he can't sit on his hands waiting for the winner of that fight to emerge. Inactivity doesn't do anyone any favors. If he can get a fight in with Alexander Gvozdyk, a former champion and a capable fighter, that's a good enough fight.
The problem is selling this thing. A Russian fighter versus a Ukrainian national doesn't put that many asses in that many seats here in America.
I can only imagine how they build this thing. The tensions between the two nations, Ukraine and Russia, and the conflict that they're currently immersed in. But you know, Alexander Gvozdyk, he wants to fight Dmitry. I feel like this is a fight that Matchroom could perhaps stage somewhere in Abu Dhabi, just somewhere over there. Not dissimilar with what we saw.
You know, their Champions series geared towards promoting tourism by bringing big-time boxing to that region of the world. Perhaps they can bring this fight to that region of the world.
It's a solid fight, though hardly a substitute, hardly consolation for what could have been a Canelo Alvarez payday or an undisputed title fight with Artur Beterbiev. Dimitri's got to keep busy with somebody, though. He can't afford to sit out all of this year collecting dust and accumulating ring rust. He has to fight.
Gvozdyk wants it.
And I don't think Alexander Gvozdyk, given where he is in his career right now, enthralled in his comeback, I don't think he'd drive a hard bargain. I don't think you have to break the bank to get that guy in the ring. I think it's something that Dmitry should at least consider because he hasn't fought yet this year.
It feels like he's fading into obscurity. It feels like he's losing momentum. Last year was a very big year for him, the biggest of his career.
He's got to get back out there. He's got to show people who he is. Remind them what he can do. I could go for Bivol versus Gvozdyk.
While we wait for the winner of Smith versus Beterbiev to emerge.
It's not like Dimitri's got all that many options. He doesn't.